What's going on, guys? So a common question that I still get asked is, how do I feel about the Reese Goosebox? So if you don't know, I've had an opportunity to introduce, test and evaluate and install and remove every generation of the Reese Goosebox, starting from Gen 1, Gen 2, and now the Gen 3 version. And I've been part of some of their product launches and reveals, and they've even sponsored a segment at one point talking about the Goosebox because I've been such a big fan of it. Now, it's been a while. We've had this RV for going on about 4 years now, and I definitely can tell you things I like about the Goosebox, things that I wish they might have done a little differently, but overall what my impressions are, and the project that we're going to be knocking out today, which hopefully is going to be a pretty simple project. But as most RV projects go, it could be either very simple or very complicated, but we'll find out and I'll tell you what we're doing. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so we are standing in front of our 2021 Coachman Brookstone fifth wheel. This is the 398 MBL, the collaboration unit that I worked with Coachman on very early on in the development of their mid-bunk, and we came up with like 3 different prototypes, and we ended up actually purchasing this one, which was the 3rd prototype that we helped them design. That said, right after getting it, one of the very first upgrades we did was to put on the new Reese Goosebox, and this is the 3rd generation Reese Goosebox. Actually, we had the 2nd generation Reese Goosebox that we installed when we got the 5th wheel, then we upgraded to the 3rd generation version of it when this one came out. What is the Reese Goosebox? Well, it is a airbag suspension 5th wheel PinBox replacement. This utilizes a gooseball connection in the bed of your vehicle, and it's one of the few products that is approved by Lippert for use on their 5th wheel frames. Now, why is it approved? Mainly because the folks over at Reese worked with Lippert and said, how do we make it approved? What do we need to do to make this minimize the amount of damage that could potentially happen to your 5th wheel frame if you're using it? A lot of it is how this actually works with energy instead of adding additional leverage to the frame. The way that they actually hinge it off the front, the use of shock absorbers, the airbag placement, the distance from the ball to the mounting point, all of this was very critical in terms of getting it correct for Lippert to trust that this product wouldn't damage frames that they build. So yes, whenever you're looking at this, this is approved by Lippert for use on their 5th wheel frames, and I think by now there are other options that are out there as well that are also approved. But this one right here is absolutely a very well-built product. Again, 3rd generation. Some of the changes that they've made I really like. I like how they engineered the newest version of it. It's very robust and strong. I don't necessarily like the air valve location. They did this because it's directly above the airbag, and they said that this minimizes maintenance issues related to air leakage through different connections and fittings like they used to have. So they put the valve directly off of the top of the airbag right here, which can make it a bit of a pain to mess with sometimes. So I had an adapter here that kind of shot back up this way, and it allowed me to hook an air chuck to it so I could fill this up and get it to where I needed it to be for towing. That said, I'm looking for an easier way of actually filling up the airbag, because right now this is one of the only reasons I actually have to get in the bed of the truck whenever I am hitching up, so I can hook my air compressor to the air chuck and fill it up to the right level. And the way you determine the right level is this right here, which you can probably barely see. There's a white line on it. Whenever that goes right to the middle of this little view circle, you know that you have the right amount of air pressure in here. And again, traditionally at this point it means getting in the bed of the truck, filling it up, and then having to close this off. They claimed that having it here would reduce the amount of air loss you would have, but what I've found is on every trip I go on, I end up having to add a little bit of air back to the bag, and sometimes it even settles during a trip. So we take off, and that view window, it's no longer right in the middle anymore. It's either compressed a little bit or it's a little bit high, and I want the ability, again, to be able to make changes to that on the fly if I need to. So what am I doing today? Well, I actually got this really cool little Viair portable air compressor. It's not super portable, but it's kind of portable. And this right here is one of their lowest cost air compressors. It is designed for you to use with like a Class A, B, or C motorhome. And it gives you the ability of hooking it up to your batteries and running a relatively long 20-foot hose out to your Schrader valves on your tires to add pressure to them. And I thought, well, this would be kind of cool if I could get this hose routed up underneath here, in here, out here, and connected directly to that Schrader valve right there. that would give me the ability of simply connecting this to the battery, turning it on, inflating the airbag, and turning it back off without ever having to get in the bed of my truck. And that's a huge convenience factor. So that's the plan today. I'm going to try to run that, get that done. But again, whenever you talk about why somebody would want to go to a connection like this, because that's ultimately the question people ask, unless you're in the know and you've already done it and you've converted to a Gooseball, regardless of the product, whether it's the Gen Y Executive or the Shocker or a number of other products. Even Lippert now offers their own Gooseball connection. But the purpose is that you remove, a 200-pound hitch from the bed of your vehicle, and it gives you the capability of getting your entire bed back. Even if the hitch weight isn't the problem, sometimes it's just storing the hitch. Like the Anderson hitch, the Ultimate Connection, that's an aluminum product. It's not super heavy. It's relatively easy to remove, but it might not be easy to store. So you have this big hitch that you have to pull out of the bed of your vehicle, and if you want to utilize your pickup truck bed, especially if you're camping or RVing, well, you have to find a place to put that hitch, and it can just be inconveniencing. So having just a ball, especially on newer trucks, that just drops right into the bed of your vehicle. It's already positioned slightly forward of the axles, and to be able to connect to it with a shock absorbing style fifth wheel PinBox replacement is really, really nice. It's absolutely nice. It gives you your bed back. There are some things that can make it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging, such as connecting chains, because typically with a fifth wheel hitch, you don't do that. You don't have chains to connect. It's just a kingpin. But on a Gooseball connection, you have to connect chains, but not necessarily have to, because this is not considered a traditional gooseneck connection. I believe the laws vary by state on whether or not you need chains. And I don't think they come with the hitch because they're considered an optional accessory. And there's a lot of folks that tow with a Goosebox that actually don't utilize chains. Me, I personally believe it's a great precautionary thing to have, and in case you travel through a state that requires them, it's just good to have them on there. But yeah, this is a super convenient setup. Some people ask from a stability perspective, does it feel as stable as towing with a fifth wheel plate? And I would say 99.99% of the time it does. But if you're towing through an incredibly windy environment, like 45, 55 plus mile an hour crosswinds, a fifth wheel hitch might actually feel more stable, simply because it's not going to have that side to side rocking that you might get with a ball connection versus a fifth wheel connection. So that's just something to consider. At the end of the day, though, I think there are so many people who utilize this setup now that tow through those environments that it's probably just a good idea to pull off the road regardless of what you tow with, if you're in incredibly hard side wind scenarios. Some people ask, what is this? Well, this is made by a company called Duravolt. I've had this on here forever, and I had it on my previous fifth wheel. This is essentially a magnetic fifth wheel PinBox solar panel that you can connect to your battery, and it just trickle charges your battery, especially if it's in storage. I really don't need this anymore. I'll keep it on there simply because it's already connected, and that's another means of kind of trickle charging the battery. And it also covers up the valve down here, so I'm not risking exposure to sunlight hitting any of the small connections in there or things building up inside of there. So that's the reason I'm keeping it on, because it's already installed, already has the magnets on it, and it already works fine. And it honestly is a really, really greatly reviewed product. I worked with this company and told them that this would be a great application for it. Before, they would only sell this to the marine industry and to the automotive industry as a means to kind of keep a fleet vehicle charged or a boat battery charged. But I told them, you know what? You have some real estate on the front of a lot of PinBoxes. Let's just magnetically attach it up here and see if we can trickle charge the battery. And as long as you get enough sun hitting it, it works really, really well. And most people haven't complained at all about it. They say it works really well, and it gives you a little bit of charge for a battery that might otherwise sit discharging slowly in a storage yard or next to a home. That said, though, really, really good setup. I can't speak highly enough about this product. I've used it for a long time, every generation, and I think most people who have moved to the Reese Goosebox would agree that it's a phenomenal product. It just works real well. I kind of wish they would move to like a polyurethane style bushing, like a sumo spring instead of an airbag. Less maintenance, something that would probably last longer overall, and you don't have to worry about air loss. But they haven't done it. The designer of this, who still works with the company, actually says he really likes airbag technology, so that's probably one of the reasons why they've stuck with it. But again, today's project is to kind of route this up here, connect it to there, so I have a quick and easy method of filling up the airbag whenever we're going to go camping. So I'm going to knock that out, and I'll show you what I did. Okay, so when I was originally getting all this done, running the rubber hose I was gonna run it up behind here, underneath the failing right here, out the front, and then figure a way to get it over here. The problem with this hose going through the back of the Goosebox is they sealed the whole thing off. So there's no way for you to actually get the hose to this Schrader valve without drilling a hole through the multiple steel plates, even going in from the bottom right here. So I had to essentially go in where you see the shock absorbers right there, and then run it up right here. So it's out of the way of everything. But then my good friend Luis, who showed up while I was doing this, was telling me, he goes, if you need to maintain this, how are you going to do that? If the hose breaks, if this wears quicker than I thought, and it's underneath the failing, I'm going to have to rip it all out. Plus, I might just want to remove it at some point, maybe go to a different type of system. So we thought kind of a cooler way of doing this would just to remove 2 of the screws that were already here, put some clamps in place that are rubber protected, and just run the hose along the top here. And then I use Gorilla Tape to run it down through the vent that I no longer need because I'm running that Viair battery in there, which does not require a vent. So now the hose actually is fed down through here to the air compressor, and I can simply connect the negative and positive terminals to the battery to get power to this thing. So let's see how that works. Okay, so we're gonna test this out and see if it works. I got power connected with the clamps to the battery. I might hardwire that later. And we can see that the light is on, so it's obviously pulling a small parasitic draw for the battery. And I should now just be able to turn on the pump. What's really cool about it is if I leave the extra hose available, it gives me the ability to kind of pull this out and see what's happening when it's happening. But for me, honestly, it's just kind of gauging how high the top of this is from the truck bed. But now, again, should just be able to turn it on. And it's filling with pressure. So in here, we are at 20 PSI. And again, we really need to get the truck backed up to it, but unfortunately I'm running out of time today, so I'm gonna wrap this video up, but then I'll feature kind of the airing up process when we hitch the truck up to it. But what do you guys think? I'm gonna have all of this kind of disconnected and laying in here until I'm ready to use it, but this should hopefully prevent me from having to hop in the bed of the truck every time I wanna do this. And what's nice is that this is still magnetically covering up that gap. And I can slide it down quite a bit if I want. It's typically sitting right around where you see the little magnet impressions there. So that's probably what we'll do. I'll throw a link in the description of this video if this is an upgrade you might want to consider. But if you've done something like this on your own truck, please drop a comment below and let me know. Anyways, I'm gonna get all of this secured. I'll have the hose secured up here like that, so you'll only be able to see this small little portion, which hopefully will be protected from UV light with the PinBox itself. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, drop a comment below, let me know. I'll also put a link to the Reese Goosebox in the description of this video if this is an upgrade you're also considering as well. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.